Hi, and welcome to the Traffic Nerd Podcast, Episode 1, Season 1. I'm Chris Garrett, and with me is
Danielle Deverell. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and this is our first quote-unquote episode of the Traffic Nerd Podcast.
We're just going to call it first. We're not going to remember all of the tries that we made last week.
which we will at some point during this. We'll bring up the bloopers of the quote-unquote first ever Traffic Nerd Podcast.
And they were glorious.
Oh, and it was quite a train wreck. It was quite a train wreck. Will we ever? I mean, to tell you that we've been talking about this podcast for what I would say a couple months now. I think last
couple months,
yeah. That we thought it's easy to do a podcast. Everyone else is doing a podcast. It's easy to do a podcast. It is not easy to set up a podcast at all.
No,
but
we've been doing our research, right? And we're figuring it out. And we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, that's why they call it Episode 1. And then what we'll do is when we get to Episode 25, we'll look back at Episode 1 and go, what were we doing?
Then we will renumber them as -1, -2, and then alpha release.
Yeah, we'll use it for the box set of the podcast. If you don't know what a box, never mind. That's another podcast. We'll talk about things that the kids don't know about now compared to what it's a long story. Anyway.
So we're going to talk about traffic and our careers in traffic and how traffic affects you and headlines that we see about traffic because we are a couple of traffic nerds.
Correct. And what we're doing today is giving you like an insight of who we are. Because you may ask yourself, who are these two people talking about traffic? How do they know about traffic? Well, we're going to tell you. So, and now this is going to be different because the first podcast I started, Danielle's story is more funnier than my story. More funnier. Is that right?
No.
Much gooder?
But go ahead.
No, anyway. So Danielle, you start. Tell everyone how you became a traffic person.
Well, I mean, it was quite an episode in my life. So I've been working in traffic for over 20 years, and I started in the New York market. How that happened is the story. So I was probably 20-something years old, and I was quite broke. I was out of college, and I was working as a waitress. And I was the only waitress in this 16 table bar. And my dad had said, here, you can use my old jalopy kind of car. It was an old Jeep that he had. And he's like, you can just use this to get to work. But it was now my responsibility to take care of it. So therefore, I had to take care of it when a driver door fell off.
Whoa.
That happened. It rusted off. So I was at the mechanic, and this mechanic was like a friend of the family. So he said, here, just, give me $100 and I'll fix it for you. So I had to save up $100. And I went in and I was waiting in the waiting room to get it welded back on and whatnot. And this older guy in the waiting room asked me, just walks up to me, this rando older guy walks up to this 20-something-year-old girl. And, I'm a street girl. So I was just a bit like, okay, what do you want? And he goes, do you know what the BQE is? And I go, I just looked at him with this disbelief, what in the world kind of question is this? Yeah. And I said, it's the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. And he goes, he just nodded. And he goes, do you know what the LIE is? And I go, what is with this road quiz? What is going on? I said, dude, it's the Long Island Expressway. But I don't know, maybe in my moment of showing off, I said something like, the world's largest parking lot. Ha, ha, ha. And then he basically said it in unison with me. And he said, that's it. You got to come in for an interview. And I'm like, I'm sorry, where do you work?
Wow. It could have been like a strip club. You're like, sure. Or what? What the heck?
Yeah, right. Could have been anything. And
anything.
I was like, what kind of a dude? He goes, oh, I work at Z100. And I was like, whoa, get back here. He didn't know he was talking to somebody who had graduated from college with a communications degree, who had listened to Z100 all their lives. Mm-hmm. So it was kismet in a way, right? So I said, sure, of course I'll come in. And then he proceeded to ask me about a couple more roads. And I said, yeah. And I knew about these things. I grew up in a city, and my parents both worked in jobs that had to do with roadways. So it was just kind of a thing I did. And I knew stuff. I can't say I knew the entire area, but I knew most of the region. So I went in for the interview and I got a part-time job with what was at the time Clear Channel Traffic, which was a division of Clear Channel at the
At
time.
the time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go into that story later.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I started working there part time, and I think I was only part time for a few months before the woman ahead of me she decided to leave, and I took on her full time position. And then it was a very quick 1 year or so. I think it was like about another year before one of the upper management came to me and said, Danielle, there's a job open in DC. And I said, yeah, sure. I'll check that out. Sure. Thanks. Because this was coming from a Jersey girl who didn't think I was ever leaving New York City.
Because Jersey girls don't just leave the city.
I'm just saying, it wasn't my at that point, my entire life revolved around I was going to work in New York City one day. Like that was just, what I grew up with.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, no, they need someone now. And I was fully aware that I wasn't making as much as I could in, another position. Even though it was probably a pretty good rate for compared to the country. So I was okay starting out in market number one.
Of course. Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay, I'll do the interview. Right. And I basically interviewed for the job, found out about the job, interviewed for the job, got the job, and moved in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I dropped everything. I said, this is it. This is the job, that they said they want me. It was an on-air job too, because the one in New York was not on air. I wasn't doing anything. I was just a producer for about the last year and a half. Well, I guess we'll define producers as we go along in the story.
Yeah, we will.
So I got this job and I immediately started learning the DC area, and that is the market I currently work in. And for the last 20 or something years, I have been doing radio and television production of traffic reporting here in DC. And I've worked at 2 TV stations and been in a voice on multiple radio stations that were getting serviced out of the DC market. So that is where I am. So you might know me from social media because I'm going to brag. I'm pretty sure I was the first one to ever tweet traffic in DC. I don't have it documented, but I think it was me. And so you might know me from social media, or you might know me from afternoon radio shows that I used to do with DC One On. You might know me from being the fill-in anchor on WJLA, which is a Sinclair station in DC. So that's where I am. That's what makes me a traffic nerd, because there's so much that goes into these jobs. Now, I want to know about Chris.
Well, Chris,
what is your story?
Oh, well, it's a long story. I mean, I'm a poor black kid from the suburbs. I'm kidding. So if you've seen the movie The Jerk, you'll understand that. Anyway, well, it's kind of weird how I started in traffic. I believe it or not, auditioned for, and I started the story in episode 1 of the Traffic Nerd podcast, and it kind of cut off, but I forgot I should have started a different way, because you didn't know this at all, Danielle. I auditioned for a traffic company called Trafax in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Trafax is also one of the many traffic companies that were out there back in the early 90s, 2000s, something like that era. Mm-hmm. I auditioned for Trafax with a man named Brian Friedman, if I remember I said his name right. And he had me come into his office, and he said, hey, do a traffic report. And I'm like, I've never done a traffic report in my life. He's like, just do a traffic report, talk about the roads. I'm like, I don't know the roads. And I just moved into like the Camp Hill, New Cumberland, Pennsylvania, Central PA area. An audition, and he said to me after he heard my audition and everything else, he goes, yeah, I don't think you're going to ever be in radio or ever be in traffic. I mean, you don't have the voice for it. You don't have this. I mean, he was telling me everything I don't have. And I'm like, thanks. And I was just, again, just getting into the market because I've never been in radio. Now, my family has been in radio for years. My dad was in radio in Washington, D.C. and in Buffalo, New York. My brother was in radio for HUR at Howard University. So it's like I have family who's all been in radio. And I'm thinking I'm the next one. Come on, right? Yeah, this guy totally just, like, destroyed me. I'm like, forget it. So then I end up becoming working at uh, Clear Channel, which is now iHeart, which we'll get into that story along another time. And that became a promotions person. So I was basically in promotions and doing like stuff, putting up Marty systems. We'll get into that another time too. Um,
Were you promoting a certain radio station or?
yeah, I was doing well. We had six stations. So
Okay. Yeah, sounds
so
right.
we yeah we had six stations in our cluster. So I was from rock to classic rock, I mean, all that stuff. But the
Mhm.
station I mainly worked for was Cool 99.3. With Cool 99.3, RJ Harris gave me the opportunity to be on his morning show. And I was basically one of his sidekicks on the morning show. But then the Clear Blue, they needed traffic anchors because we had one traffic anchor, Dave, who I'm not saying his last name because I always say I'm saying his real last name when his air name is Dave Andrews. Um,
Mhm.
but but Dave said, "Hey, we're looking for traffic anchors. Do you want to try?" I kind of learned how to be a traffic anchor from Dave, and then basically Dave put me through the ringer on how to be a good traffic anchor from, learning the clock and learning this, learning that. I mean, it just took me a while. The first year of me doing traffic was literally a train wreck. I mean,
They kept you for a year even
they
though it was
kept me
that
for a
bad?
year. They kept me for a year. Now, mind you, I wasn't doing like I call them the big boy stations. Um,
Uh-huh.
I was doing our pop station, Kiss FM. I was doing the Christian station. I was doing stuff like that. People weren't really listening. But then out of the clear blue, the next year, my best friend Mike Miller ended up working at Kiss, and then his morning show became the number one morning show in the market, which means I was on the number one morning show in the market, which means I had to set my game up big time of how to be a traffic anchor. So I basically took some massive initiative and got a map and got lost in Central PA and learned the
Yep.
roads and learned the lingo and learn what people want to hear, what people don't want to hear. And
Did
then
you ever draw your own maps just to learn
yes,
it?
yes,
Yes.
I
There
did.
was a lot of sketching out rough drafts of
Mhm.
maps, like just bare minimum things like road intersection, road exit ramp. Like that was it.
I know we did. We went to the point where we literally mapped out a person's going to work. Like they left Camp Hill, go through Harrisburg.
Oh,
We mapped out the roads, and we even figured out back roads, which then became alternates. Your
yeah.
alternate route to get around. So that's where that's how deep I got into traffic to the point where literally I became my own GPS.
Yeah. Doing rehearsals of
And so
what it would sound like to a listener.
right. And then before you know it, I was doing more of that. And then year three came, and then they started putting me on big boy stations. I'm like, what's going on here? Why is that? And then before I know it, my boss was like, dude, you're killing it. I'm like, well, last year you wanted to fire me. So there you go. But
What happened?
what happened? But ever since then, I've become like this big traffic nerd where, I kind of want to learn everything. So before you knew it, I was there for 6 years, 6 years, and then our cluster got let go. So they basically consolidated our cluster. We all lost our jobs, and then I ended up going a different route. I ended up working in television as a working at the desk. Now, when people say that, they almost think, "Oh, you were an anchor." I'm like, "No, it's literally
Mhm.
working at the desk, picking up a phone, talking about
Yeah.
breaking news and stuff like
The
that."
assignment desk.
Working at the
Yep.
assignment desk. That's all I was doing. I worked at the assignment desk at CBS 21 in Harrisburg for about a year. And they came up to me and said, all we want you to do is just get breaking news and blah blah blah. So I did that for a whole year. Then out of the clear blue, my best friend Charlie, who's my boss at iHeart and Total Traffic, um, called me out randomly and said, "Hey, we're looking for someone to do traffic for a TV station." I said, "Huh?" He says, "Did you want to do traffic for a TV station?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can just do the voice." He goes, "No, you have to go on air." And I'm like, Do you really want all this? I mean, all this. on television.
I don't think Chris knows how friendly he looks.
No, no, I need to shave right now. This is bad. Anyway,
Yeah, there's going to be so much. We're going to be like talking about all of our experiences with television. You know, everything from like a makeup,
don't
makeup
even get
artist to going on camera. Yeah,
don't even get me started
he's
about
got a little more experience too.
day one makeup is my best story ever. Don't never mind. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward because I feel like I'm going too long. So before you know it, I ended up working in television at Fox 43 for many, many years doing TV traffic, and then left TV traffic for another year. And then I came back to iHeart again because I left iHeart and went left Total Traffic, then went to Fox 43, took a year off, then went back to Total Traffic again, and now I'm on CBS 3 in Philadelphia. I'm their fill-in traffic anchor. I'm also the Black Information Network traffic anchor for radio. So that's what I do. And we'll go in more detail, especially when it comes to Black Information and also Total Traffic and CBS 3. And you'll go in more information about your stations too, right, Daniel?
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about my experiences. I'm also currently on Black Information Network.
Yeah, I know. Okay. We won't. No,
we'll go there. We'll go with that later.
We'll go with that later.
Yeah, and my experience at 2 television stations as well. And yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to fill you in on all the funny stories along the way. Probably just going off on way too many tangents, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. By the way, if you think this is going to be like planned out, you're absolutely wrong. No.
We're winging it.
We're winging this whole thing. Now, mind you, we do have a, okay, by the way, this is how much of a organized person Daniel is. There is a Google Drive.
I was like, we can't go into this without an outline, Chris. We need an outline.
There's a Google Drive of all the topics that we're going to talk about throughout these podcasts. But this one, number one, was just getting to know you podcast. Yeah.
Maybe we should tell them how we met each other.
Do you remember how we met?
I do.
Okay, you tell the story then.
If you tell me it is something other than what I'm about to say, I'm going to lose my mind.
Go for it. I want to see if you remember this story.
I have to say, this was years and years and years ago.
The hat.
It's the hat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can like superimpose a photo of it. I don't know. Okay, so this is when I was working at my first TV station, like 2014, 15, something like that?
Yep.
And I don't think I was pregnant. So it might have been like 15, like, yeah. 15,
yeah, I don't think, no. You don't think you were pregnant, no.
So I don't know, did your boss put you in touch with someone at my station and was like, hey, Chris wants to visit? So you were at Fox and I was at Fox.
No, I wasn't at Fox. Well, was I?
You weren't at Fox yet.
I don't think I was at Fox yet. No, maybe I was. Yes, I was. Yeah, I was at Fox.
Okay, so Chris was the version of me in Philadelphia, and he was working at Fox doing the production for the Fox Philadelphia affiliate.
Right, and I was also on air too.
Good, yes. And I was not. I was the producer in the back, and I was producing for the talent up front, doing the on-camera presence for the traffic reporting.
Right.
And he came down to visit because I was the first one in the country to launch the map product for our Total Traffic company. And I think Chris was probably learning how to use it, and that's why they were like, you go visit Danielle.
Right.
Okay, so I was the first to use it. And Philly's nearby, so they probably sent him down. And I remember him visiting the studio during morning drive. And this was a weird story because I was already working in a tiny room.
Very tiny room.
So it was extremely small. They had placed me in a closet that was behind the stage near a loading dock. Okay, so I was freezing all the time. And I was in this tiny, tiny room. And I was producing the morning traffic report. So he comes to visit, and he's so nice, such a sweet guy. Comes down with at least like a hostess gift, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A gigantic Hershey's chocolate bar.
A gigantic, like twice or 3 times the size of my head Hershey bar.
Yep.
Now I believe this was around January because it was around the same time as my anchor's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell the story as is. This was quite comical. Just from my POV, as they say, he had presented her and me with this Hershey bar because he was from the Hershey area in Pennsylvania. And I thought, oh, how sweet. But I was still working away. My anchor turns to him and she goes, oh, for me? And she took the entire bar. And I sat there and I kind of was like, I didn't want to make you feel bad. Like, I didn't want to make you say anything to her. And I think didn't want to impose or even assume that it really was for the both of us,
Right.
even though I kind of had
It
the
was for the both of you.
inclination that
Yeah.
this was for the both of us and it was for, to share amongst the studio.
Yes.
And it was funny how she absorbed the present, and I'm sure she had no idea. Like, it's nothing, not to slight her. It was very comical the way it played out. Like, you could see like me breaking the fourth wall in this scene.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
totally.
it was just
Totally.
like,
Yeah, totally.
I was like, what is happening? Like, that's not entirely for her.
Totally.
Sweetheart. But I don't think she knew that it was for both of us.
So do you want to, wait, are you done? Because I didn't tell you this.
You were very sweet. Yes, I'll close that story up. You were very sweet. You came by and you studied what we were doing and you wanted to see how the maps were working. And I'm not sure if this is the same visit as the hat.
It is.
It might have been it's the same visit?
Yep.
You didn't come down a second time?
No, I only came down one time.
I'm such a weirdo. Okay,
Yep,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I'm not going to talk about the hat. I'm going to talk about something I never told you.
Oh no,
so,
you've been saving this for the podcast.
So we're done. The morning show's over, and I have to head back to get to my old house, my old place where I used to hang out. And I had to leave to go back on the metro.
Yeah.
I went the wrong direction on the metro.
Did you end up in another town? Like, where were you?
Well,
okay, so this was Friendship Heights you left, right?
Right.
Okay, so he's leaving Friendship Heights on what I assume is the red line, and you went south or north?
I was supposed to go to Northern Virginia.
Oh, so you should have gone south towards like a Metro Center.
Right. I went the opposite way.
Oh shoot! You went to Shady Grove?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally got lost. So then I'm thinking, okay.
Oh, no.
So then I called someone and they said, "Hey, yeah, you're going the wrong way. Get on the opposite train and go the opposite way." I'm like, okay, no problem. So I went the opposite way. I ended up at Dulles Airport.
You switched trains and
yep. Ended up.
Did
at
you
Dulles.
take Orange?
I don't know. How long ago this was?
Okay. So he may have transferred trains and got on the Orange line and went out to Dulles.
I went somewhere. It took me.
Where were you trying to go in Northern Virginia?
I was trying to get back to towards Leesburg.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I completely.
You may have missed your stop if you ended up at the airport.
I missed so many things because I wasn't paying attention at all. Also, I was dead tired. And it was just a whole.
Yeah, it was an early shift. Man,
it was a whole train wreck, and I still remember that because I still laugh every time I have to go to Northern Virginia. I go, "Hey, there's that line."
You have memories.
Yeah, bad memories. Jeez. All right. Well, Danielle, I must say that we lasted 23 minutes.
Yay! We did it.
We did it because the first one we lasted
all 30 seconds.
All 30 seconds. So we now have, but I guess we could say that's a wrap for episode 1 for right now. But we have more to come, right, Danielle?
Yeah, we do. We're going to talk about all things traffic, and just know that you are getting it from 2 complete traffic nerds.
Correct. So again, you can check all of our information on our socials. We'll be on everything you can think of. We're on. What are we on again?
Instagram, Threads,
right.
Facebook, X, and Blue Sky.
There it is. I was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be on that. Also, you'll be able to watch our podcast on YouTube very shortly. And you can also check out the audio on all of your top podcast sites, hopefully in the near future. But again, right now we're going to be popping up probably on the major social medias, just doing highlights, and then we'll be on pod hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We're going to try to do as many pods as possible and get them out there.
The handle is Traffic Nerd Pod.
Thank you.
Yeah, Traffic Nerd Pod on most of those socials.
So you'll be seeing most of our stuff up there very shortly. So okay, we survived Traffic Nerd Podcast episode 1.
We did it.
And don't worry, episode 2 will be done hopefully soon.
Yeah.
So on behalf of me, Chris, Danielle, thank you very much for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Remember, always be a nerd. If you're going to be a nerd, do it in traffic. I don't know. Okay. Bye.
Bye.